Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. In this class, we'll quickly be looking at the concept of radical equations. Radical equations are also called surdic equations. And what are radical equations? We've talked about surds. And so radical equations are equations that involve, they have two things that define them. And what is it? Number one, they contain radicals in them. These equations have radicals, and that is not all. The second one is that under the radicals, that is where the variable that is making that equation an equation is contained. So for instance, if I have look at this, let's assume I have the root of x, say plus 5 equal to 0. Yes, this is a radical equation because in this equation there is a presence of a radical, and then under the radical there is what? A variable. That's an unknown contained here. Okay, now, but if you have an equation, there are other examples such as square root of x, say minus 1, maybe minus x again equal to say 20. This is also a radical equation. Now, but if I have an equation such as, let's say, x plus, say, the root of 5 is equal to maybe 10. This is not a radical equation, even though there is a presence of a radical here, but you can't call this a radical equation. And so what makes a radical equation is the presence of a radical and the presence of a variable under the radical. You can have two radicals in a radical equation now, but there must be a variable in at least one of the radicals, or maybe the two, or maybe three radicals, depending on what you have. Okay, so that's what we mean by radical equations. And now, whenever you have an equation, we remember that the most important thing is how to solve that equation. And so if we have a radical equation, how do we solve it? So let's look at some examples. Now we have examples here. The first example says solve, this equation. And so to solve is to find the value of the unknown. And so we want to find the value of x that will satisfy this equation. Okay, so let's begin. Now here we have solution. Okay, so we are given the root of 2x plus 1 and then plus 8 to be equal to 13, and we want to find the value of x. Now, to solve a radical equation, one of the things that must be at the back of our mind is how do we take away the radical? Because a radical is covering the variable which we are looking for, so we need to find a way to take away the radical, and then we can then solve for the variable. Okay, so let's begin. Now, to take away this radical, first of all, you need to clear anything that is standing with the radical. Take it to the other side of the equation. Okay, so let's take this 8 to this other side. And if we do that, we are going to have the root of 2x plus 1 to be equal to 13. Now, this 8 coming over here will be minus 8. And so we have 13 minus 8, which will give us 5. And so from here, there is plus 1 here. So this will give us equal to 5. And so from here now, what do we do next? Then at this point, when you just have your radical on this side and then a value on the other side, this value could be just a number or maybe another variable or maybe the same x. So at this point now, we can take the square of both sides. Okay, so let's decide to take the square of both sides. And why are we taking the square of both sides? Because we know that square can take away square root. Okay, so the square here will take away the square root. And so on the left-hand side, we'll now have 2x plus 5. And then on the right-hand side, we will have 25. Okay, so at this point, you see, we now have a clear linear equation which we can easily solve to get the value of x. Okay, and so to do that, we will have 2x is equal to 1. We'll come over here and will be minus 1, and that will give us 24. We divide both sides by 2. And when we do that, That's going to give us, this will take away this, and so our x is equal to 12, and that is the required solution for example 1. Okay, quickly we'll go over to the second example. Please, you remember what I said? So at this point, what are we going to have? Clearly, we just have the radical on the left-hand side and then some values on the right-hand side. So we will just go straight to what we have done here. In this place, there is no need to take anything to the other side. We just have clearly on the right-hand side, on the left-hand side, the radical, on the right-hand side, some values. And so we'll just immediately take the square of both sides. And so if we take the square of both sides here, we are going to have the square of this is going to just take away the square root. And so we will have x squared plus 9 to be equal to the square of x plus 1. And when we take the square of x plus 1, that will give us this x squared plus 9 to be equal to, if you open up this bracket, you are going to get x squared plus 2x plus 1. Okay, so at this point, what do you do? Now, the first thing we're going to look at here now is to consider if there are common terms on both sides of the equation that can cancel out. And of course, here we have x squared here can take away x squared here. And when that happens, you will just have 9 to be equal to 2x plus 1. And so at this point, what do? Collect like terms and divide both sides. And when we take 1 to this side, we'll have 9 minus 1, which is 8, to be equal to 2x. And so at this point, we will divide both sides by 2. And when we do that, 2 will take away 2. Therefore, our x is equal to 4. And that is the required solution. Okay, so for the second example, what are we going to have? So let's quickly go down. Okay, sorry, for the third example, we are going to have, okay, here we have x, square root of x plus the root of x plus 5 to be equal to 5. And we're asked to solve. So what do we do first? Now remember, like I said, everything you have on the left hand side now are radicals, but in this case there are 2, some of them, and then on this side you have just 5. So what do? Immediately you take the square of both sides, and if we do that, we are going to have the square of this side to be equal to root x plus the root of x plus 5. Then this is going to multiply itself because you're taking the square, and then on this side you will have the square of 5, and the square of 5 is 25, of course. Okay, so from here, what do we have next? So we'll try to take the square. So this is going to multiply this, and that's going to give us x squared, root of x squared, which is x. And then root x will multiply this other one, and you'll have the root of x into the bracket of x plus 5. And then this will multiply this to give you the same value, which is the root of x into the bracket of x plus 5. And then when this root x plus 5 multiplies root x plus 5, you will simply have x plus 5. And that will be equal to 25. Okay, so at this point, what do? So we will try to collect like terms here. There is x here, there is x here. So that's going to give us 2x. And then on this side, there is this root, which is the same as this. So you gather it together, and it will give us the 2 root. Now, but in this case, I'm going to open up this bracket. And if I do, we are going to have x squared plus 5x. And then, however, here you have 5. But I want to take that 5 over to this side. And that will give me 25 minus 5, which is equal to 20. Okay, so at this point, we consider this term, the expression we have here. Is there anything we can do? Now, at this point, there is 2 here, there is 2 here, and there is 2 here. So we will choose to, divide through by 2. And if we do that, we are going to have this over 2, and over 2 here. So this will take away this to give you 10. This will take away this, and this will take away this. So what do we have left? We have x plus the root of x squared plus 5x to be equal to 10. And then at this point, remember our interest is to ensure that only the root is on this side. So we take away this to the other side, and that will give us the root of x squared plus 5x is equal to 10 minus x. And then at this point, we can take the square of both sides. And if we take the square of both sides, what are we going to have? The square is going to take away roots here. So you have x squared plus 5x to be equal to, the square of this is going to be 10 minus x into 10 minus x. And from here, that's going to give us x squared plus 5x to be equal to, if we open this bracket here, we are going to have 100, because 10 will multiply 10, then minus 10x minus another 10x, then minus x multiplying minus x will give us plus x squared. Okay, so and at this point, what do we do next? So we are going to now look on the both sides. Are there common terms? Yes, there is x squared here, so we take it away together with this. And so here we have just 5x. So we collect like terms. Let all x come to this side. So we are going to have 5x. Here you have minus 10x. And so it comes over to this side, minus 10x. And this other one coming will also become plus 10x. And that will be equal to, here you will just have only 100 left. And so you collect all of this. And when you do that, that will give us 25x is equal to 100. So what do you do at this point? Just divide both sides by 25. So we divide both sides by 25. And so this will take away this. And our x is simply equal to 4. And that's the required solution for this. Okay, so we look at the next example. And what's the next example we have here? That's example 4. And so example 4 says that we should also solve this equation. And so, and what do we do here? So at this point, you just take away only this minus x to this other side. And when we do that, we are going to have 4. We're going to have 4 root 3x plus 6. And that will be equal to 14. Minus x coming over here becomes plus x. And then at this point, we can just immediately take the square of both sides. And when we take the square of both sides, what's that going to give us? We're going to have square here, and we'll have square here. So when we take the square of this side, square will come on 4 to give us 16. And the same square will come on this root to give us, it will take away the root. We'll just have 3x plus 6. And that will be equal to, if we open up this bracket, we are going to have, that is 14 plus x into 14 plus x. And when you, multiply now, this is going to give us 96x, this is going to give us not 96x, is going to give us 48x. Yes, 48x. And then on this side, you're now going to have 96. Yes, 16 times 6 is 96. And on this side, 14 times 14 is 196. 14 times x is 14x plus 14x plus x squared. Okay, so what do you do here? So you see you are going to have, to collect everything to one side. And so if we take this 48x to this side and the 96 to this side, everything is going to be x squared. This is 14x plus 14x is 28x. And so you have plus 28x. And then this one is coming over to this side. So it will be minus 48x. And then you will have plus 196. And this one is coming over. And that will give you minus 96. Everything is equal to 0. And so at this point, what do we do? So we simplify. X squared, this minus this will give us minus 20x. and this minus this will give us plus 100. And so immediately you see that we have a quadratic equation which we need to solve by factorization. And so we are looking for the coefficient of this is 1. If you multiply by this, that's still 100. So we are looking for two factors of 100 that you will sum to get minus 20. And those are minus 10. That's 2 times 2 minus 10. And that's going to give us, so just open up your bracket. So you have x minus 10 into x minus 10. And of course, here you can see that either this is 0 or this is 0, meaning that our x minus 10 is equal to 0 twice. Okay, so at this point, that is to say that our x is simply equal to 10 twice. Remember that what you have is a quadratic equation, meaning you are supposed to have two solutions, and that's why we have these 2 times. Okay, so and that is the solution to this final example that I have for you here. So quickly look at the next, what we have next here is an exercise. So take time to look at this to solve the equation and try to find the value of x in each of them. And that is all we'll have for this class. And please kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel and like and share our videos. We will see you in our next class. Bye.